Death. Death everywhere. I died a lot playing Black Myth Wukong and rage quit more often than I care to admit. But boy, it was a fun game. At first glance, Black Myth Wukong is not my type of game, granted. I'm not a Souls or Elden Ring player at all. But this game seems like a good stepping stone, intermediary between those and what I normally play. I didn't have many expectations on the game to start with, except that I might not finish it, dead bored or too frustrated. We all saw the hype for the game, which turns out to be justified, but at the time, I don't know. It wasn't on my radar that much. So I went into the playthrough on launch day to give it a fair go, and not too sure what I was getting myself into. I feel it's a theme of this year with my Platinum series, where I get pleasantly surprised when I start to branch out with other types of games. Black Myth Wukong is a great game, period, on multiple accounts, and an experience in itself that goes beyond gaming, especially for Westerners like myself with no knowledge of the lore surrounding Wukong and the cultural significance it has. There are multiple points to touch on here, before I go into my plat experience and what makes that game so special. The gameplay, of course, the cultural impact for the game industry, and the broader exposition of the Chinese mythology and also the craftsmanship that went into that game. The gameplay is as challenging as it is rewarding. You get your ass whooped over and over, but when you finally beat that boss and you get that feeling, it makes all the suffering worth it. The game also has a way to put you in a false sense of confidence sometimes, where you think you figure out the gameplay and everything is going to be smooth sailing now that you unlock more abilities, just to then present you with a boss that will humble you once again. The game though is well balanced and gives you options even without having any difficulty settings. If you're really good, you can play through relying on your skills and facing the challenges with whatever resources and stats you have at that stage. That's the baseline, hard mode, where by the end you may be at level 50 or 60 without too many sparks spent. Kudos on you if you did it, because I could not. But it seems the developers knew that, and strategically place areas where you can grind for some XP and sparks, and a system of mine cores to farm and advance your stat and give you a bit of an edge. Everyone, no matter your playstyle, will have access to the same weapons and armor, for example. All the bosses are obviously the same for everyone, so the only way to modify the difficulty really is with the stats and various spells both, which can be modified at any time to tailor your playstyle or to each boss encounter. You could be on your third playthrough and just downgrade all your stats to be to the bare minimum and challenge yourself with different combinations to make the game as hard or easy as you wish. Despite that, the game will put in front of you optional bosses that will challenge you even with well-boosted stats, forcing you to learn the movesets of those Jaguar and strategize. Try different things at every encounter. The game forces you to think about what you're doing and to be deliberate, in a good way. Breathe and be patient. I had to tell myself that quite often. You also don't lose XP or progress on your die, which is a god-given gift for noobs like me, not gonna lie, with the number of times I get lost between shrines, so thanks for that. The combat is the bread and butter of this game, and it's also satisfying. Landing a finisher or making a perfect dodge feels good, badass, with a bit of arrogance as you cannot block anything in Wukong. Evading your opponent's attack are key here. It takes time to master, yes, and it can be daunting at the beginning, as the learning curve can seem quite steep, thrown in the deep end, but it makes it all more rewarding once you grasp the mechanism and how to approach the game. Wukong being an RPG, you do have your skill tree and upgrades for weapons and armor, and medicines for some buff and debuff. They all work together, and many involve trade-offs, finding what salts to put in your drinks that could help a weapon perch, while negating a boss special attack is all part of it. Those mechanics themselves are not new, of course, but the way they are integrated as part of the story and the cultural significance is just a great game design. We will touch on the curios later. Brilliant integration. Now the game itself, at release, was exactly what was expected and what every game should be. A single player game with no gimmick that just works. You launch the game and you can play it. No pay to win, no secret mission exclusive for an edition or another, nothing locked behind a paywall or pre-order bonuses. You do get a deluxe edition, which gives you a small upgrade at the very beginning, but you outgrow them in no time. So they are more cosmetic than anything. But the fact that everyone on every platform can have the same experience with the game is great. No need to decipher a pre-order edition graph to see what game you did in. No need to look at the timeline to figure out when the upgrade content or game updates are coming. You buy the game, you get the whole game, and you play the game, as it should be, like the good old days. A single-player, offline game working as advertised. Yes, I'm looking at you again, Cyberpunk. When the developer focuses on the game itself, giving the audience a great experience and gameplay, it just works. And Wukong is the proof of that in 2024, with its brilliant success compared to other releases, great with battle passes, online sword, and other money-grabbing items for offline single-player games. I think Wukong's success is a positive one for the industry in general. It shows that a good product without gimmicks can be and will be successful, reminding developers what people want and like in games. Gamers aren't cash cows that will give away their hard-earned money for mediocrity or unfinished product based on false promises anymore. We all got tired of being hyped up and disappointed, disrespected as consumers, and the industry needs to realize that, and it does. The craftsmanship that went into this game is absolutely brilliant. From the art direction, the animations, to even the trophy list, every aspect of the game has had thought put into it. Let's start with the art direction. This game is gorgeous, period. That was the main high point since the game was announced, and funnily, one that remains the main focus when people talk about this game. But let's give credits when credit is due here. The environment and regions are stunning, especially if your PC can take it. The PS5 does a relatively good job at it too, I have to say. But it's not free from artifacts and pop-ins, weird textures and other glitches. Nothing game-breaking on my side, it was all just visual. The characters and bosses are also uniquely distinct and intricate, not only in appearance, but in animation too. And they are all impressive to encounter for the first time. Some of the mundane minions are also created in a way that even when you have repeated encounters, the variety of them makes it seem fresh and not boringly repetitive. Now, all of those details added on top of elaborate animations can make some boss fight a bit laggy, with some frame drops. Again, nothing major, but still noticeable enough that it may affect gameplay a bit. So that in itself would be all well and good, right? But the games go further, and did three things that were not essential gameplay-wise, but added to the storytelling and the lore. The first one is the end of chapter animations. Short stories animated in different styles that you can revisit from the main menu once you unlock them. Those are chef-kiss mini-stories and legends, tying up the main storyline. They are beautifully crafted and all giving you more context on the chapter you just finished. The second one is the tapestry art that you can interact with at the end of each chapter. I wish we could have those into lithograph or prints, as they are fantastic. But again, they're not there just for show, as you can look around and get a narration of each scene depicted in it. It once again gives context of some of the plot points of the chapter, and this idea fits perfectly with the gameplay experience. Honorable mention too to the in-game journal, where you can find way more backstory about each character and Yagua you encounter during your journey. Some of them might be too much reading when you just want to play, granted, but a nice addition for the ones that want more lore. The third one is the curios. Not gonna lie, I thought they were all just random objects with various stats put there for gameplay purposes. But the answer was in the name, all along. It takes some words, true, but if you're curious and look into them, they're more significant lore-wise than it may seem, and aren't chosen at random. Let me give you my favorite example. The two curios, the Jade Moon Rabbit, that slightly increased damage reduction, and the Golden Sun Crow, that grants a small amount of damage when used by themselves. But both effects are enhanced when equipped together. I said that and was like, okay, cool, nice perks, and moved on. Not even second thought on why those two interacted with each other like that and not the others. But I came to learn that the two curios represent two characters that you can see in one of the animation at the end of chapter 4. They are also part of the mythology with their own stories, and they unite together at one point in a forbidden love story, and the deeper you read, you then see the connection between them and Baji, one of your companions on the journey. and now they are all intertwined. It might not seem like a big deal, it's not explicitly told, but it gives players like myself more context and lore. It enhances the immersion into this world. This is not just a random piece of jewelry to buff stats, it has its own significance. And that attention to storytelling and world building is what makes Myth Wukong superior to many other games in my book. My first playthrough was chaotic, trying to learn not only the gameplay and what's going on, but also piecing information together and making sense of what's going on. It can be a bit challenging attention-wise, as the storytelling isn't spoon-fed to you. But I like that this time around, for some weird reason. I'm normally not a fan of New Game Plus. Replaying the same story over again for trophy's sake isn't my jam, especially if nothing really new is added. But in that case, I appreciated my second playthrough way more than the first one, and I encourage you to do a second one. Let me explain. The first playthrough is a lot of unknown and learning the game, leveling up and tackling the challenges of beating. I didn't put much emphasis on the story and side quest storyline other than for completing them. And at the end, like many others, I went to YouTube to watch some video that explained the story, what happens and who is who in that hood. Channels like Williamsweeb, AvenueX 123, Being Thoughts, and others give you deep dives into the lore. And listening from their perspective as part of the culture or just being knowledgeable people about it was fascinating. It all made way more sense and helped link everything together. I suggest to watch different channels, as some come from a more literature perspective, others more an historical point of view, and some just from the cultural and folklore knowledge from China. With that knowledge, my second playthrough was way more enjoyable than I thought. The cutscenes and dialogue made sense. I knew what the character motifs were and where they came from. Not only from the videos I watched, but also from playing the game and seeing unfold the first time. What the game does well in that regards too, is that your second cycle or playthrough is easier. Yes, the encounters have more health and hit harder, but not hard enough to make it too challenging. So you can breeze through and enjoy the story on this one, and also complete your platinum journey. Touching on cycle, you can do multiple ones after that, and at least 3 to upgrade all your relays. And the third one is already becoming more challenging, as once you plateaued in your upgrades and spots, you'll have to rely only on your skill and boss's knowledge. So as you can tell by now, I love this game. Love the story, the gameplay, the challenge, the craftsmanship that went into it, the presentation and delivery to the public, all of it. It's reflected in the scores, really. The platinum chase is also great. It's well balanced and boy, they kept it interesting. I love the cryptic way each trophy description is, in theme with the game, no breaking of the third wall. Just going all in with the immersion. It made the experience more interesting, and seeing some trophy pop and finally realizing what they meant is a bloody great idea. The completion process too is well thought of. Yes, you have to do a new playthrough, but you're not forced to complete past chapter 5. And at that point, you should have enough spark that it should be relatively easy to breeze through and collect everything you need. If you miss some stuff in your first playthrough or just want to play it without thinking about the trophies, everything is achievable in your second one. I do recommend to be more thorough in your first playthrough though, and do everything you can so you can enjoy the second one. For everything that games does good, there is one thing that is missing. And no, I'm not talking about a mini-map or even just a map. The game gives you a journal to keep track of all your encounters and meditation spots, but other collectibles are harder to track. For example, the spirits. They are plentiful, but you don't know how many in total there are. Same for the collected medicine and souls, and the equipment that comes from random drops too. You just know you're missing something because no trophy popped up really. A journal entry for each collectible, like they are for the characters, would be great for the trophy hunters. Not revealing what you missed, but giving you an order of idea. And I would love a page for each curio, giving us more lore on them. The trophies themselves are nothing too strenuous. Apart from the story-related ones, they are more about completion, and many feed on each other, and can't be completed if you haven't finished another kind of thing. There's some randoms drop that can be a bit grindy depending on your luck. I felt though that most of the last ones I needed and chased during my second playthrough dropped way easier than in the first one. So let's get into it, shall we? As usual, all the timestamps and the description down below in the video description, if you want to skip the story-related ones to avoid major spoilers. So we start our journey playing as Wukong himself, full-fledged warrior, and we're facing Erland right away. The visuals are stunning, and the fight is epic. We don't have a health bar to start with, so we can take in the controls without too much repercussion. It also sets up the underlying storyline, as Wukong is defeated by some treachery, and we switch to a cutscene far in the future, setting us up on our journey as the destined one. The prophecy is that one monkey will rise and bring all of Wukong's relics and free him from that big rock. The story itself, through the whole game, is deeply rooted in the lore and cultural references that are unknown to me, and that I discovered as I played the game blindly, piecing together what I could interpret. So once again, I won't go in great details with the story, other than what was presented and how I lived it during my playthrough. We send on our way and we get our first story-related trophy, Home is Behind. We start our journey as a peach, treating some wolves as Wukong would have done, and we set up to discover the game's mechanic. Chapter 1 is pretty straightforward in its design, but still has some secrets to uncover, secret bosses, and hidden gems to find. After defeating some enemies and getting some will and XP, we are granted some sparks to unlock our first skill, and for that we get our second trophy, a Spark of Thought. And unless you're doing a no spark playthrough, this one is kind of unmissable too. We discover our first shrine, which are the game checkpoints, and where we can do a bunch of cool stuff like brewing drinks, assigning spell, etc. We also get our first spell, Immobilize, which we can upgrade later on, and it proved itself quite useful until the end. It didn't take long for the game to kick my butt though, with the first real unscripted boss, the Wandering Wight. After realizing this fight is not gonna happen, we went around to fight some minions and get more XP. And we found another optional boss, Gourde. This one is more manageable, and we get a cool transformation for it, which will be useful again for the rest of the playthrough. After defeating him, we also ring the bell behind him. There are 3 bells to ring in that chapter to unlock the secret area with the secret boss. Every chapter has one, and even if not necessary to complete the main story, they are a big part of it, lore-wise and for the main story too. So we'll go through them as part of the main story trophy line. We then go back to the Wandering Wight and defeat him. You have to defeat this one before doing the chapter 1 secret boss, otherwise you will miss on his spirit. And you will want his spirit, as it's a useful one to use throughout the playthrough. More on spirit later on, but if you missed it and already beat the secret boss, you will be able to get it in the New Game Plus quite easily for the trophy associated with it. Making our way to the forest, we meet the Old Master. We will meet him in every chapter from now on for some backstory and upgrades to our Gourde. It does upgrade it this time around, and we can now catch spirit with it, that we can cultivate at the shrine to make them stronger. Chapter 1 being pretty linear, we face other bosses one by one until we arrive to the second acolyte with a bell to ring, Guanmu. This one wasn't too bad, and it gives you his spirit too. The next tutorial part have us meeting the Shen Monkey, who tells us more about drinks going in our Gourde, and how to upgrade them and combine them with souls. At that point, you will most likely create your first brew and get the trophy, Brew of Bravery. Soon after, we are face to face with another challenge, the White-Clad Noble, a two-faces boss that is pretty swift. Not gonna lie, I wasn't ready for a second phase boss that early, but after quite a few deaths, more than I care to admit, we finally defeat him and move on. From there, we can find the secret boss area on the left, ring the bell, and we are transported to the Elder Jinchi Temple, the ancient Guanyin Temple. And defeating him grants us our first vessel, the Fireproof Mantle, which is needed for a trophy, and also quite useful for the final boss of the chapter, who lights using fire. and beating Elder Jinchi also gave us the Temple of 10 trophy. Back on track, we're now climbing the mountain, getting rid of everything in our path, until we come face to face with the human form of the black-bearded wild called the Black Winged King, if I understand the story well. We defeat him and he runs away further up the mountain. And at that point, we also learn a new trick, Cloud Step, which will be greatly useful from now. At the top of the mountain, we face the black-bearded wild. This fight isn't too bad to start with, and using the fireproof mantle and cloud steps help a lot in the later part of the fight. And this marked the end of chapter 1. And we also granted the story trophy for completing chapter 1, Blazing Blackwind. In addition to some backstory, we did our first relic, the Craving Eyes, that comes with 3 parts to choose from, each playthrough allowing you to unlock a new one. So in theory, you would need 3 cycles to get them all fully upgraded. We did some wheel, XP, and other goodies too. We also witnessed the chapter animation. Each chapter has one, in a different style, and gives you more context and story background. You can also interact with a panoramic fresco, giving you again more detail about the characters and story. If you're new to that mythology like myself, it will be hard to keep track of it all. But I do encourage you to listen to those snippets, and they will all make way more sense in your second cycle. Chapter 2 starts with a banger of a song, and us merely alive pierced by many arrows like Boromir. But we are revived by our mate and go on our merry way. Chapter 2, The Yellowwind Rage, is a bit more open than Chapter 1 and has many side quests, small and great, as well as optional bosses. You do have to encounter them all to update your journal and get the trophy associated, but we won't cover each one as there are way too many. Story-wise, there are certain bosses that are inevitable. The first one are the King and Second Prince of the Flowing Sands. As a quick tip here, get rid of the small king first. You'll thank me later. That will piss off the big guy though, making him a bit harder to fight, but killing him first means you won't be able to acquire the spirits for this fight. We then find the first prince of the Flowing Sands, and teach him a lesson too. It isn't too hard if you keep your distances and let him charge at you first. Patience is the name of the game, here and as in many fights in that game. At that point, we can also unlock the secret area of this chapter by talking to the Hangover Ball. It will request the Sobering Stone that we can find in the open world or buy from a merchant at the end of a small side quest. It will then move to the Crouching Tiger Temple and ask for some Jade Lotus to feast on. And going back to the first place we met him, we'll be able to fight what seems to be his brother, the Yellow Robe Squire. He then opens a secret area for us where we need to defeat the Tiger Vanguard to prove our worthiness before we can face Fuban, a giant scarab beetle. We are in the past, or memory realm at that point, story-wise anyway, which was confusing during my first playthrough. Anyway, beating him gives us the second vessel, the Winged Tema, that we will need for this chapter boss, the Yellowwind Sage, and we get the trophy Shifting Sands. But before facing the final boss, we still have some ground to cover. We're going back to the Crouching Tiger Temple where we face with the Tiger Vanguard. This one isn't easy. It took me a while to get his moves and how to counter them, but it's a rewarding fight. Until he is vanquished, we can enter the lower temple, making our way to the cellar where we meet Zugor, who teach us about medicines and pills. We also meet our headless friends, who will teach us Block of Many, a spell where we can duplicate ourselves for a brief moment in fights. A useful but costly one to use mana-wise, but depending on your build, it can be quite devastating. Continuing our way down, we finally come face to face with the Yellowwind Sage, the final boss of the chapter. The second part of the fight is made way easier if you get the vessel from the secret area and used it. And if you remember well, it was the one helping us fight the huge beetle, and it got the Buddha head that was on its back. Anyway, once defeated, we realized that the Buddha head was the one of our guitarist friend. We did a second relic, the fuming ears, another cool animation and fresco for some more backstory, as well as this chapter trophy, a great ghost. Chapter 3 has quite a bit going on, open areas and secrets to uncover. It's also a confusing one story-wise, with some shape-shifting characters, and trying to figure out who's a friend and who's a foe. One of the first boss we encounter in this snowy land is the Macaque King, a minion of the final boss. He's nifty, and we will meet him again later on, as he's not done with us, or we're not done with him. Arriving at the lake, we meet a little monk with a bag of treats, and he sends us along to fight us. This fight is tricky in the sense that we don't have much aerial attacks and need to wait for the opportunities to strike and immobilize. I won't tell you the number of times I froze him in place too high up in the air, misjudging his patterns of attack. But once defeated, we sent directly to jail in the Pagoda realm. This is undeniably my least favorite section of the whole game. Fortunately, it's not a long one. Not only you have enemies hiding in the shadows to jump you also have that torment cycle where your health bar goes way down and the lantern slender enemies appear. Oh, and you can also die from falling quite a bit in there. Anyway, once we find our way to the top, we fight Captain Wise Voice, the Jaguar responsible for that torment cycle happening in the prison. He isn't too hard either. Positioning yourself out of the way makes it easy, and striking the ball head when it's done will make a quick end of it. Out of there and free at last, we continue our journey through the snowy mountain and find the Macaque chief trying to attack our old pal. We won't let him be bullied and send that monkey away once again. The old master, unfazed, teaches us a new spell, Ring of Fire, which I haven't used at all during my playthrough, except for this chapter's secret quest. We're making good progress, or so we thought. Meet Kanjin Star. She will whoop our butt to oblivion time and time again. She is the human form of the Loong we beat earlier. She can transform too, and has devastating attacks. After losing some sanity, we finally managed to beat her and breathe. We free Baiji in the process, and he will be our mate until the end of the game. Oh yeah, by the way, we are on a total bar that is taking us somewhere. And once we land, there are multiple side missions to start. The first one is with Loong, not far west from where we landed. After defeating him, he will ask us for some medicine. You can travel back to chapter 2 and talk to Zudor in the cellar of the Crouching Tiger Temple to get the medicine and come back to give it to Loong. He will then give you a fast travel scroll to the Painted Red, or Zodiac Village. Here, all the NPCs that can help you are gathered, which is great and useful. You also have an armorer at the back that can upgrade your equipment, and challenging him, if you win, will give you the opportunity to ask for another curio slot. Really useful. Back on the shore of the lake, we also help a treasure hunter, attacked by those bad people. This is a multiple step quest for the chapter that is crucial, so don't miss it. It will thank you for now, and we go on our merry way. At the Tower of Karma, we meet him again and cast Ring of Fire so he can warm up a bit. He thanks us once again, and we can go on until we arrive at the edge of the frozen lake, where we drop and find the Melonfield Shrine. Apparently, it wasn't as kind as we thought, and we have to fight him. He is the Green Cape Martialist. He isn't too tricky apart for teleporting and rolling around as a wheel of fire. It's almostly timing based. Once defeated, we are approached by another little monk, a good one. And yes, he is different from the one with the bag of tricks. They look alike, but are not alike. And that Potbelly fellow teaches us the Spellbinder spell. A compromising spell where you lose all your spells for an increase in raw damage. This encounter kind of counts as the secret boss area of the chapter, and needs to be done for one of the final showdown. You won't get any trophy for it though. There are plenty more to do in this chapter too, and it will take a while until we made it to the new Thunderclap Temple. This temple is huge and confusing at first, with a variety of enemies that aren't always easy when they all come at you at the same time. Once we made our way to the top of the new Thunderclap Temple, we are met by a Yellow Brow, the final boss of the chapter. It's a multiple phase fight, but they all have checkpoints, so you don't have to redo them all if you die at the second or third phase. We like that. So phase 1, we beat Yellow Brow. This phase isn't too tricky. Phase 2, he captures us in his bag of tricks. Oh yeah, cause you see, he was the first little monk we saw. This guy has the good one to trick us, I guess. What's in the bag, you may ask? Well, the answer is the Macaque King, that we need to defeat for a third time. We are then transforming into him and need to make our way out of the diorama until we can face Yellow Brow once again. In this one, it can be a bit more challenging. Once he's covered in gold, you need to crush him out of it, as most spell or attack combo are useless. Once done, we get our trophy Nifty Nonsense for defeating him. And the chapter relic, the Hubris Nose. The final cutscene where the friendly little monk reveals the traits and stories of Yellow Brows. We did a new and cool animation. And another tapestry to get some backstory. Not gonna lie, chapter 3 was a long one. There's quite a bit to explore and other side quests to complete with tons of reward. Chapter 4 starts, and if you don't like spiders and crawlers, well, good luck. We arrive in the village of Landsea, and it's really moody. In this chapter, we will learn quite a bit about our mate Baiji and his story. And it starts by us kind of being invited to a dinner, but then that lady and having her shenanigans and change into a huge ass spider. She isn't too tough though, and opens the way to the hollows for us. She also throws a sting at Baiji, but he seems to brush it off. Those underground caverns have quite a bit to explore, and bosses to get through for journal entries. And you get some weird ones like this Buddha riding thing. Getting our way to the hollows, we defeated a cutscene that gives us more background about the mother and all the daughters. Quite interesting. And once we reach that location, we have to fight our mate Baiji, who seems possessed by some voodoo magic. That fight isn't too hard, surprisingly. And that's because it was only the first phase if you want, as we face him once again not long after. And he's a bit trickier this time, the little bugger. Once defeated, Baiji comes back to his stance when his sting is removed. The journey continues until we come face to face with the Violet Spider or Queen Mother. She's a bit tougher than the other spider we fought earlier, and she has more tricks to slow us down. After winning, a race takes place where we need to make our way out of the hollow, and spiders are everywhere. Out in the fresh air, we can tackle the secret area of this chapter, after defeating the Venom Taoist. We haven't shown you, but encountering him in the hollow. He isn't really important apart from dropping some rare loot, and opening the secret area for us, behind that tapestry, the Purple Cloud Mountain. The area isn't too big, but I can pack a punch. I'm looking at you, Scorpion Lord. That is quite a tough fight, so good luck to you. Learn his trick and become good at dodging. On top of the mountain, we will meet the Dusk Vale. That horned rooster skeleton jaguar has two phases. The first one is easy, predictable, grindy, but easy. Too easy. Oh yeah, that's because in phase 2 is where that things get mad for real. The fight isn't hard in itself, and it telegraphs its attacks, so it's not too hard to dodge and get out of the way. Just don't get too greedy. And by defeating it, we get our secret boss trophy, the Cockerel Crown. As well as our third vessel, the Weaver's Needle, that once again will be quite useful for the final boss fight. Talking of which, we met him at the Court of Illumination. His name is the 100-Eye Taoist. He isn't happy that the Violet Spider was defeated. An argument ensued and all the daughters attacked him. We joined the fun and we did our butt kicked a couple of times. The first half of the fight isn't too devastating, but that goes up a notch on his trigger and launches all those balls or eyes in the air. That's when you use the Weaver's Needle to piece them all, and put him back to the lesser version of himself who were fighting before. That makes things way easier. Once defeated, we did the Behold the Betrayal trophy, and the cutscene giving us more insight on the relationship between Bajie and the Violet Spider. We also did our relic, the Envious Tongue, as well as the animation and fresco for the chapter. On to chapter 5, we're now in the volcano level. This one isn't too jam-packed and more linear than some precedent chapters, but there's still plenty to get through for completion. Story-wise, we made a big entrance with Bajie in his boar form, helping us taking down some undead. Not long after, we see some NPCs fighting each other, and there's no way to tell who's good and who's bad, so we beat them all up. Only one remains, the Pelad Stalwart. That tells us about the 5 elemental cards that we will have to defeat throughout the chapters. Yes, cards. This chapter had quite a few random and weird bosses, in a good way though. By the way, equipping your fireproof mantle vessel in this chapter is a good idea, as everything is burning on fire or lava-like here. We make our way up the mountain, taking down some cards until we hear a cry from help from a fox. We help the poor animal by defeating the fast as wind and quick as fire bosses duo. When I mentioned random and weird earlier, that's what I meant. It's not a hard fight, just why, who are they, and what the heck kind of fight is that? We'll have more duo fights in this chapter, with Cloudy Mist and Misty Cloud, and another duo later on too. The fox turns out to be a girl fox called Pin, daughter of the Bull King, and asks us to help. We agree, and we follow her to the Rakshasa Palace, where mother or stepmother argue with the keeper of the Flaming Mountain about destiny and the dying Bull King. Turns out it was all an illusion and the guy is pissed, so he decides to teach us a lesson. The fight is cool. He won't fight you directly, but rather send some foes and illusions against you. None are terribly difficult, just various styles of attack. Out of the temple, we climb our way through the Bull King. The fox girl Pin acquires the Plantain Fan and uses it to extinguish some flames which open the secret area of the chapter. At the entrance of it, we will find the last card to defeat, the Rusty Gold card. This is the toughest one of them all, but it doesn't have that many attacks, so it's quite predictable. Entering the secret area, we will face top text bottom and bottom text top, another duo that we encountered earlier in their board form going up the mountain. The secret area of Chapter 5 isn't too big, and we're soon face to face with its own boss, the Baishu Golden Eye Beast. It's fast, aggressive, and throws fire everywhere like a flaming Tasmanian devil. But after defeating him, we did the Frost and Flame trophy, as well as some good material for some armor and weapons. Back to our main quest, we reached the Bull Chain at the Fallen Furnace Crater, where we learned that we were tricked. The little fox girl isn't a fox, nor a girl, but a red devilish boy named Red Boy. Classic villain. He wants all the powers for himself and wants to avenge his clan. We normally don't whoop children, but this one seems evil enough that we have to do it. Not gonna lie, I thought I was lucky, because the fight seemed quite easy. What a fool. It was only the first phase. We did a cutscene where the Bull-Team deserts are rallied, but the sneaky red boy snatches it, evolves and becomes that thing, the Yacha King. And okay, this one hits harder a bit. He summons a lot of spikes, and his swords are way too long too. It seems unfair. Well, unfair for everyone else but us, cause we beat him up. Not in the first try though, we're not that good. But we did our trophy, Flaming Fury, for beating him. We then get our final cutscene and animation explaining the relationship between Wukong and the Bull-Team. We also get the 5th relic, the Grief Body, and the last vessel, the Plantain Fan, that comes with a trophy, Treasure Trove, for acquiring the 4 vessels of the game. The last chapter is another surprise. We are basically in a huge open area, and we need to collect all of Wukong gears by finding and beating some bosses. There are plenty more other bosses in that area too, for various side quests or just completing the journal. So here we go. First of all, we're greeted by the Supreme Inspector. It's a good fight, a challenging one as he can parry and is nifty, but nonetheless it should not be extremely hard. Once defeated, we will get a new spell if you will, the Somersault Cloud, which makes traveling around way easier. You can only use it in Chapter 6 though, bummer. Once we get the cloud, we just need to find the 3 first bosses to fight. The Gold Armor Rhino, which will grant us our first armor piece. Then the Clad Trading Deer, that is tougher than he looks, with his tornadoes and Batcade for another armor piece. We then ride to the Fantail General to get our headgear, but this isn't a fight. You only need enough health and stamina to last the jump and fry his antenna. You can also use medicine to enhance those stats before jumping on it. Once those 3 are done, we can join Baiji, who is chasing a praying mantis and eating it. We then have to shrink down and get into Baiji's stomach to defeat the mantis that is tormenting him from the inside. And we then get some cool arm guards. All we need now is another staff, and Baiji tells us to meet him behind a waterfall where we can acquire it and get the trophy, Guardian of Gears, for acquiring all of Wukong's gear set. We are then making our way to the top of the mountain, fighting even more of those soldiers. At the top, we arrive where it all begins, at the rock where Wukong is allegedly encased. But before going to the final boss fight, we need to travel back to chapter 3 to face the secret boss that is now unlocked after defeating all the other secret bosses. The walls of the pagoda are painted with our victories, and we are sent through a painting on the wall a la Mario 64. Making our way to the top, we come face to face with none other than Erlang. This is not an easy fight at all. He has 3 faces and some kind of shield poise meter, making our attacks nearly useless until it's run down. You need to be deliberate, precise, and use your mana efficiently to get him. Until then, he's a tough nut to crack. But once you're done with him, well, you're not done. He's taking the fight to the sky where you transform to a fat lion and you become a stone monkey. You fight your way to the 4 heavenly kings, which isn't too hard, and if you die, you respawn there, so no worries. You regain health by doing some heavy attacks, which helps greatly once you realize that. That fight is epic though, with some nice cinematic takedown. Once they are dealt with, it's now Erlang Shen's turn. The fight is simple and a bit grindy, using rock solid to stun him when he attacks and using heavies to heal too. He's pretty slow, so it's pretty easy to see his attack coming, and once defeated, we get the trophy, meet the match. At that point, I thought Erlang would be the final boss all along, so I was surprised and intrigued to see what I will have to defeat at the end. Making our way to the rock and entering the area, we learn that we need to confront ourselves, or Wukong memories. In this arena, we are on our own, and in front of us is the stone monkey. He has 2 phases. The first one isn't too terrible. The second one, where it duplicates, can be a bit trickier. At that point, trying immobilize or telegraph heavy attack will be avoided. And when you think you're in range for hitting one monkey, he gets away, letting the second one jump on you. It can be chaotic to figure out at first, but after a while, we dodge him, or them. But this is not the end, my friends, as phase 2 is now triggered. The Great Sage Broken Shell, aka Wukong himself. The bad news is that every move you have, he has too, and he knows all your tricks too. The good news is that if you die to him, you won't have to redo the stone monkey phase. Silver lining. At the beginning, spell may work on him, but the more you progress in the fight, the better he gets at dodging them. He will create a ring of fire for himself, where you can go to get some focus too. So take advantage of this. Or at one point, he will take all your relics and the perks they gave you. Cool. Keeping your distances otherwise to recover is a good idea, as he is in no rush to jump on you. It took me numerous attempts once again to figure him out, and the best course of action. But once defeated, that's it, you're done. You got him, and the trophy, a Jewel of Destiny, is yours. At that point, you feel good. And that's the end of the main story. You'll be back at the rock, where you can fast travel from to complete all of the trophies before starting a new cycle, the new game plus of the game. That's when we went back to get all the stuff we were missing, mainly the random drops item, as if you throw during your playthrough, you should be nearly done with all of it. Once you finish your first playthrough, beat the secret area boss and the game's final boss, and you have collected from everything you could from that first playthrough, it will be time to start a new cycle. And if you did everything right, 3 trophies will pop once you started. By acquiring the 6th and final relic of Wukong, you will get the trophy Scenic Seeker. At that point, the trophy is not missable, as none of the relics are missable being part of the main story plot. You will also acquire a new spell by starting a new cycle, the last one needed for a trophy. All the other spells should have been acquired during your first playthrough if you defeated all the chapter bosses and did the Hunter quest from chapter 3, which is the only one that could be classified as missable but needed to unlock the final secret boss area. After starting your new cycle, you will get the last spell, Life Saving Strength, that you can interchange with your Pluck of Many, and you will get the trophy, Master of Magic. Your journal is a great guide throughout the game to evaluate what bosses you missed and defeated. Your journal updates with new entries at the start of each chapter, so before doing a chapter final boss, I check the portrait and make sure I have most of them. They generally are in order too, so if you're missing some entries for characters or Yagoi King, it may be because they will be part of the chapter final boss fight. Your journal won't update in the last chapter after you defeated the final boss too. Those pages will only be updated once you start a new cycle. I know it's a bit confusing when you think you're missing some, but no panic. It will update at the start of your new playthrough. And that's when the Portrait's Perfect trophy will pop. In Myth Wukong, we have 3 main side quests spanning multiple chapters that are a bit more involved than other quests, and they grant you a trophy for it as well. The first one will have you defeat the frog Y in each chapter, 6 in total. After defeating the first one, in Blackwind Forest, you will acquire its spirits, as well as a tadpole, a unique collectible that can be used to upgrade that spirit. You will also get a tadpole for each frog you defeat, and you will need them all to cultivate the frog spirit to its final form in chapter 6. And once you defeated them all, you will get the Clamor of Frogs trophy. There is a strange character that you will encounter during your journey. In chapter 1, he is in a cavern near a meditation point. Talking to him, he will tell you a bit about his journey, and that's it. You will encounter him again in chapter 2, tied to a post near the Earthwolf boss arena. You'll need to have a chat with him again, learning more about his journey. In chapter 3, you will be relaxing at the new Thunderclap Temple, again waiting to have a convo update with you. And finally, in chapter 4, you will free him from a cocoon on your way through the hollows. There's not much to him apart from some dialogue at that point. In chapter 5, you will find him in a dead cart near the lava flows. Pulling on his whip will give you some dialogue, and that's it for now. You will have to return there though once you progress it a bit more past the palace boss fight. Coming back here, you will be able to pull the whip this time, and get the horseman transformation for yourself. You will also get the trophy Urge Unfulfilled for completing the side quest. The last side quest is quite involved, and will have you beat 4 bosses in 4 chapters that are quite challenging. This quest is also essential for other trophies, as some rewards are needed to craft some weaponry and get the transformation associated with the quest. You can start the quest in chapter 2, after defeating the second prince. You will be able to break a wall in this area and acquire some Loong scale. Those scale will allow you to awaken the 4 Loongs in each of the first 4 chapters. You know you're near a Loong boss, as some dialogue will start playing as you approach them. Traveling back to chapter 1, Blackwind Mountain, you can go back to the waterfall in the Forest of the Wolves and beat Red Loong. In chapter 2, you will find the Black Loong in a hidden cavern behind the sandfall up from the rock-crest flat shrine. The third boss will be found on Turtle Island. On the eastern side of the turtle's back, you will see a Loong statue fishing, and the Cyan Loong will be awakened as you approach. The last boss will be found in the Hollows in Chapter 4, not far from the relief of the fallen Loong shrine. Growing up, you will face the last one, Yellow Loong. That guy is no joke, but defeating him will give you his transformation and the material needed to craft the staff associated with the quest. You will also pop the well-deserved trophy, the Sire and Sons. Congratulations. Your Gourde is your best friend, and a trophy associated with it will pop when you complete all the encounters with the Old Master during your playthrough. It will give you your first Gourde in Chapter 1, and you will encounter him at various points in other chapters too, until Chapter 5, where you will need to have updated your Gourde to the max level to be able to interact with the fire and level it up to its final stage of Supreme Gourde. But you can come back later on if you haven't upgraded your Gourde when reaching that point of Chapter 5 though, so no stress. And when you get the Supreme Gourde, the trophy always accompanied will be yours. Each chapter possesses different mantles where you can acquire a celestial pill. Those pills come in 3 forms: Jade Lotus Pill, Tai Pill, and Nonary Pill, to increase your health, mana, and stamina. Needless to say, you will want to seek them out. There are 3 per chapter for the first 5 chapters. For the last pill, you will get in Chapter 6 after completing a quite involved quest that starts in Chapter 1. See, each chapter has a skanda that you can acquire. You can find them in the open world in Chapter 1, 3, and 4. But in Chapter 2, for example, you will get it as a reward for completing the Buddha Eye side quest. And in Chapter 6, you will get the 5th and final skanda from defeating that big rock boss called the Giant Shingodan. Once done, you can bring the 5 skanda to Gourde at the Zodiac Village and deliver them to him so he can craft the 5 skanda pill that will increase all your bars of health, stamina, and mana. And this being the last pill, you will pop the Medicine Mill trophy. Depending on your playthrough, the next 3 trophies can pop at different times, as there are more gameplay trophies. The first one will pop when you craft your first medicine, and that's when the creative concoction will pop. For harvesting the first time at the Zodiac Village, you will pop the Happy Harvest trophy. And for upgrading your first piece of armor, still at the Zodiac Village, you will get the Pound and Perfect trophy. There are 2 trophies for getting all the armors and weapons available in game. And those 2 trophies are why a new cycle playthrough is needed, as far as beating the Chapter 5 secret boss. Resources are limited in each playthrough, and some armor sets require a new cycle to get enough of them. Again, it's not a huge deal if you've been thorough in your first playthrough. And the second cycle feels easier as you'll be leveled up by then, and have quite a bit of armor and stuff to make it faster to go through. Much of them are rewards from bosses or side quests. Many are craftable in the Zodiac Village, for example, and quite a few are random drops from certain enemies. Most are farmable, like the See No Evil headband that you can get at the new Thunderclap Temple for defeating the monsters there. But one to keep an eye out for is the Venomous Arm Guard. That is a drop from the Venomous Taoist in Chapter 4 Hollows. You need to make sure you get rid of most of its extra arms before defeating it. It's not too hard with some immobilize and hit him in the back. Just don't one-shot him if you're overpowered at that stage. For all the gear and armor, you won't need the Deluxe Edition set for the trophy. And you won't need to upgrade them all to the highest tier either, which is good. Just make sure you craft them all though, and you will get the Mantled with my trophy for the armors. Do the same for the weapons, and you will get the Staff and Spears trophy. Along the way, in every chapter, you will find some plants and wood to collect. They can be used for medicine, but are also tied up to various other trophies, as they can drop salts and seeds. The drops are random, so collecting every plant you see is important to make your life easier down the pipe. Plants will respawn every 1 real-world hour, so you can come back to a good spot every so often to get the ones you missed. The drop rate isn't too bad really. I only had to travel back twice to get the ones I missed, as I got them all by being thorough during my first playthrough. Once you gather all 15 of them, you will get the Seeds to Sow trophy. It's important to bring them all to Loong in the Zodiac village to be able to sow and harvest them too. In each chapter, you will find meditation points. Some have 3, others a bit more, and they are all recorded in your journal. They are generally easy to find by yourself if you do a little bit of exploring during your first playthrough, and you can jump back at the end to get the ones you missed. But I suggest finding them straight away, as they will give you a free spark the first time you meditate there. And in subsequent playthrough, it will just grant you a good amount of XP. Once you get the last one in chapter 5, you should see the Scenic Seeker trophy pop. Curios can be an essential part of your build, giving you an edge in battle or recovery, and mismatching them can make them greater than the sum of their parts. You will acquire many of them. Some are unique, and some can be collected multiple times. The rarer unique ones are generally a reward from a boss or a small quest. Many are just found around the world, and a bunch are also RNG drops. None of them are really missable again if you're thorough, apart from the Lantern Curio in chapter 3 in the pagoda. You will have to destroy those slender lantern people, 8 or 9 of them before defeating the Captain Wise Voice boss at the top of the pagoda, as that captain is the one creating that weird state where the music intensifies, your screen goes weird, your health bar drops, and those slender guys appear. So once you beat that boss, you won't be able to confront those lantern guys and get that tree. The good thing is that they are all easily visible, and they don't respawn once defeated, so it should not be too hard. And once you get the curio, you know you're done with them all. The curios who will most likely be missing until chapter 6 are the random drops one. At that stage, it should be easy to travel back to each location and farm them. The process can be a bit tedious if you are unlucky though, but you will get there at some point. And once you get them all, the Curios Collection trophy will pop. There are 2 types of shape-shifting abilities in the game. The Spirit Skills, that is quick and ephemeral in nature, that grants you a passive bonus, and 1 quick ability to use at one point in the game. And we also get Transformations, that allows you to take the form of certain characters with some of their abilities to fight during combat. Spirits are numerous, 54 in total, and are acquired for most of them after defeating a more difficult or tanky type of non-boss enemy scattered around the map. Some can also be acquired by lesser bosses like the Wandering Wild or the Frog's Loong. As much as if you miss one, you can travel back to their location and get them. Some are a bit more fiddly and missable. The Wandering Wild, for example, is the first spirit you can get. If you don't defeat it before chapter 1 secret boss, it will no longer be available, and you will have to wait for the next cycle to get it. Similarly with the King and First Prince in chapter 2. If you kill the son before the father, you won't be able to acquire the spirit, as the father will be fleeing. So unlike me, get rid of the father first, or you will have a second chance in the next cycle, so it's not too worrisome. For the land spirit, you will need to defeat the 6 frogs, 1 in each chapter to acquire enough tadpole to cultivate the frog to its second spirit form. The transformations are acquired in various ways. Most of them are bosses or secret bosses reward. None of them are really missable apart from the Yin Tiger in the Zodiac village that you need to challenge and defeat to get ease. Until then, if you thorough during your first playthrough and do everything you can in each chapter, you'll be Gourde. And once you collected all the spirits and transformation available, you will get the Fickle Form trophy. Your Gourde is an essential part of your survival, abilities, and build throughout the game. Not only will restore some health, it can also give you an edge depending on your game style by combining the properties of the gold itself, the drink you fill it with, and the sauce you add it in. The trophy associated with it is quite involved and linked to other trophies, as you will need to acquire all the golds, drinks, and souls. For the gold, some are gained from chests and rewards from defeating enemies. The Supreme Gold can be acquired in Chapter 5 after fully upgraded the first one you got in Chapter 1. Same goes for the drinks. You will find most of them in the open world. Some drinks can be upgraded with Awakened Wine Worm that you can find in the open world or buy at the shrine. Note that you can only buy them once. They will not be restored in a subsequent cycle, so I highly suggest upgrading the Aged Coconut Wine above all. As a last upgrade, we give you the monthly wine iteration needed for the trophy. If you spend some wine worm on other drinks, fear not, as you will be able to find them again in the open world in your second playthrough. But since they are rare, it will be a bit more tedious. Now, the souls come from various sources. You will get some from defeating bosses or side quests, some will be in chests, and others will be drops from NPCs or plants that you harvest. One soul will also be acquired as a reward for planting all the seeds you collected, and another will be available the first time you start a new cycle. It isn't a hard trophy if you're thorough and take your time in each chapter to explore and complete everything. You should end up like myself with most of them by New Game Plus and just have to grind the random drops one. And once you get all of the available golds, the 10 drinks and 27 souls, you will see the Brewer's Bounty trophy finally pop. All the ingredients you collect along the way or harvest at the Zodiac Village will allow you to make medicines to give you a bit of an edge in combat. The recipes for those medicines are found around the world, rewards from winning fights, or to be bought from Zoodod or other shrine. There are 14 of them, and the last one will be available to buy after starting your first new cycle. They are really easy to get and buy as you advance your playthrough, and get more will on hand too. And once you get the last one, the Page Preserver trophy will pop. And finally, if you do everything right, after beating the secret boss of Chapter 5, you will get everything needed to craft all the armor and weapons, get all the remaining trophies, and finally pop the Platinum Final Fulfillment. All in all, Myth Wukong was an incredible gaming experience. It did so many things well that it easily eclipsed all its flaws. It was a challenging but rewarding journey to get the Platinum, and each step, as frustrating as some were, made the experience even greater. Do I recommend playing it? Yes, of course. But I also recommend sticking with it, passing over that hump or learning curve. This game isn't for everyone, granted, but that's the kind of game that rewards you by giving you back what you put in it. Being invested in the story and learning about it, the lore, the culture, will pay up tenfold for your general experience with it, as the game goes beyond being a self-contained story. You can compare it to the new God of War, and how the Nordic lore was implemented in that game, piquing your curiosity and wondering who those gods and characters were. Sure, you can breeze through and skip the cutscenes, complete the game and move on. But those storytelling and world-building games offers way more to gamers that invest in in it by their complexity and craftsmanship. That's what makes those games so special and unique. That Myth Wukong is a game I enjoy and that I will play again. A game that earned its place on my top shelf for how memorable it was for me. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll catch you in another Platinum Chase. See ya!